When my awakening first started 3 years ago, I would say, well, it started almost 7 years ago. It came in little trickles. It started in little incremental trickles. 7 years ago, just before my mom passed away with cancer, 6 months later, I felt this strong discontent and disillusionment within me after having been a Christian, a faithful follower of Jesus, devoted to Jesus. After living 30 years of that, my soul felt parched and disillusioned, and I remember crying out to God. I felt that I was not in the truth. I felt that I was missing out on the truth. I felt like I was missing it completely. And I cried out to God, please, whatever I'm here for, please don't let me miss the purpose before dying. I needed to find my purpose. And that was my first trickle of awakening, that cry, the cry for truth. Show me what I'm really here to do and be. Then after expressing that soul cry, the next thing I was faced with 6 months later is my mama dying with cancer. Oh man, that rocked my world. It rocked my world in particular because she was having visions and dreams that she would be healed. And she had been healed several times of different illnesses and ailments in her lifetime. So miraculous healing was not a uncommon thing for her. She was a strong believer. But the cancer took her. And naturally, you can imagine that stirred up a whole lot of questions within me, which was the trigger point of unraveling eventually the entire Christian narrative. Then, I think it was in 2019, 3 years after that, another wave came in, a wave of triggering that triggered my dormant memory, soul memory, and my trauma. I met a person online that I later learned was my twin flame. And through that online encounter, more memory was triggered, and somehow through energetic exchange, it unlocked a deeper part of my consciousness, and I began seeing things realizing things that I never before was able to see. But what I want to really talk about is that awakening cannot happen all at once, at one point at the same time. Because awakening has to do with releasing the structures in our ego mind. In 2019, when this twin flame friend, shared a vision with me, a blueprint, if you will, that introduced to me the idea that I am one with Source. In the vision, I got absorbed into the bosom of Source, or Father, as it was termed at the time. I had no idea what that meant at the time, but today it makes perfect sense. With the awareness I have today, being absorbed into Source as Source makes perfect sense. But had I been slammed with this awareness 3 years ago, my ego would have had a meltdown, because you can't go, well, I shouldn't say you can't, but it's unlikely that you go from being embraced by a father figure of God that you relate to for safety, to all of a sudden be thrust into the concept that you are that Source, that you are that father, that you are that father that you were relating to for safety and security. That is too much. That's too much of a jump for ego to make. And I have been getting severe pushback for that one, for entertaining and embracing the idea that I am Source. Because if I got reabsorbed into Source, that would mean that I came out of Source as Source, right? But that's too much for the ego to absorb all at once. It's gotta deconstruct the stepping stones in between. You can't go from needing Source, needing Father as your security and comfort, and all of a sudden that's erased and you become, you're supposed to be that. That's too much of a hurdle. So I was taken there gradually over 7 years. Right? So when people ask me now, trying to understand what I am all about, I cannot encapsulate for you 7 years of evolution to express how I arrived at my current awareness and understanding. It's been a process. And yeah, so it can only happen in stages, incrementally, as we break down the firewall, which is our ego, with all the different programs that helped us function in this world. That has to gradually be taken down so that we can actually see the big picture, that we are Source. We came out of Source and we're going back to Source in consciousness. And many are expressing that and saying, I am God, which is painful for the natural ears to hear. But in time, you will gain that awareness and you will understand exactly what people mean by that. You are the Source. You came out of Source. There is no daddy there to comfort you. You are actually that higher spirit that you gain comfort from. It's you. It's you. But this is too shocking for ego to accept. And that's okay. You don't have to accept it today. I just wish people wouldn't react so viciously towards and against this because, well, one day, if the universe has its way with you, one day you will come to that realization too, and you will look back in regret about how you reacted to people that were the first fruits of this revelation, and how you persecuted them, right? We have all been Pharisees. We have all been those dastardly Pharisees that opposed Jesus. Well, every one of us is doing it in our lifetime to someone else because of something that we might disagree on. So, yeah, we get to be the Pharisee and we get to be Jesus and experience the whole gamut of emotions and misunderstandings. So, awakening is gradual and incremental, and just asking for space, to hold space and time for people to come into their own conscious awareness of who they are and their awakening.